There we go. Good evening, everybody. I hope everybody had a wonderful 4th of July. I know we did. We spent time with our friends here, Keith and Louie Aguilar. We had a really good time up in Utah and still suffering from the inhaling a ton of dust, ATVing. I don't think my nose is going to recover from that trip for a while. It was altitude and 3% humidity and just a lot
Wow.
and allergens all over. And I don't
Wow.
usually affect me, but this trip was bad for me.
Mm.
At least it
Anyways,
wasn't
we want to
smoke.
thank you all. Pardon me.
At least it wasn't smoke.
Well, there was smoke in north of us, but that fire had been burning for a while. It's
Mm.
just too bad. But yeah, we were concerned before we left whether we were going to be impacted. But the 3% humidity is the reason why
Mm.
it's bad. So, anyways, want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We're honored to have winemaker Aaron Jackson from Aaron Wines, and he has another project as well. We'll probably hear something about that. And uh, please hold your questions or put them in the sidebar, and then we can answer them later. Have Aaron answer them, and we'll go from here. And I'll turn it over to Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Aaron, for dialing in. I think tonight's going to be a lot of fun. I've known Aaron, you and your wines for quite a while, going back to Paso Underground days, good days back then. Um, and I've always enjoyed your wine. I think you're doing some really unique stuff. I think what's really cool about you is a legacy winemaker. Hard to imagine for such a young man, a legacy winemaker that has kind of created a unique lane that's still kind of a unique lane, I think. And I have the opportunity to chat with you at Main Street Wine Company a little bit about your philosophy around uh, what you're doing different and why. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about that tonight. But before we get into that, it's interesting. We like to talk a little bit about what winemakers did before they did wine, and there's not a lot of room for that discussion with you because you started at such a young age.
Yeah, I saw your questions that you had kind of to these similar boilerplate questions, and the first two questions made me laugh because it said, "What did you do before wine?" And it was something like, "What made you leave what you were doing and get into wine?" And I was like, I didn't. This is all I've ever done." So,
15, do I have that right?
yeah, yeah. It's funny, someone asked me that today. My first job in the wine industry was working in a vineyard, and that was, I think, in '99. So I think I was
So,
15 or
like
16.
any pre-wine memories, Little League, when
Yeah, the
Mike's
irony is, I think that you hear those stories. I think this is one of the reasons why my story is a little bit unique. I think you hear stories of people that say, "Oh, when I was young, my grandfather had a cellar full of Burgundy and would, pour me a little bit and mix it with water and all those things." And, I grew up in a very, working class, middle class household in which, Peter Vella and Franzia were the main names in the household. And my parents were certainly wine drinkers, but not in any capacity. So my entry point into the wine industry was relatively serendipitous, just in the fact that I literally got a summer job when I was in high school working in a vineyard. And it was largely my older brother had a friend that worked at the now defunct but once infamous Wild Horse Winery in Paso Robles. And he was like, "Hey, if you guys want to ride around on quads all day, we can give you a job in the vineyard." And I thought, great, sign me up. You're 15 years old and your motivations are relatively simple. And that was about it. And I love being outside. And I became fascinated immediately with the concept of wine. In sort of the process of cherishing something that comes from the earth and in a way that tells a great story. And it's funny that those anchor that foundation of what I learned when I was really young about what wine truly is and why all of us on this Zoom meeting love wine is because wine tells a story. And here I am, I mean, almost 30 years later, and I haven't lost that love of wine. Um,
So, did you get some with the exposure being on a winery at such a young age? Did you taste wine more than say your peer group, and did you like it when you first tasted it?
no, I think as any young person, Jason, no, I did not like wine. I think the process of creation of wine is really where I fell in love with it. I didn't have any expectation that I would love wine from the get-go. I mean, who in the
Right,
world has ever loved wine in their first taste?
right.
But what I loved was I loved the process. I loved the art and science of it, and I loved the fact that we were creating something that let me take a step back for a second and hit pause on that. And I'll give you my adolescent mindset around where I was at. We we all consume things as humans. We consume things that are from places or come from brands or have names. My older brother's friend I was working with at the time was explaining to me, "Hey, you're gonna help us plant these vines in the ground. This is the soil type. We're planting Pinot Noir. It was clone 667 and clone 115. It was this rootstock. We're putting this in the ground. In 3 years, we're going to get our first crop. We're going to make the wine. We're going to age it in barrel. It's going to get bottled. And then someday down the line, it might be, you know, a year from now. It could be 10 years from now. It could be anywhere. They could be in Maine or New York City or who knows. And they're going to pop the cork on this bottle of wine. They're going to taste it and they're going to say, "Hey, this is a 1990, let's just say 2001 Pinot Noir from this vineyard, from this place, grown on this soil in this kind of vintage, and that's why it tastes the way that it does." And I realized at that moment that nothing else that we consume in the world, that I know of at least, has that degree of intimacy and intricacy with the through line to me as a essentially a child putting a vine in the ground. That moment has still holds true when that bottle of wine is opened at some point down the line. And, I don't think anything else we have does that. I mean, I always make the analogy like people say, "Oh, I love Neiman Ranch beef." Ribeye from Neiman Ranch. Like that's what it's all about. And I say to people, "Where's Neiman Ranch?" And people say, "I don't know." What do they feed the cows? They go, "What kind of cows do they raise?" I go, I don't know. I just know the Neiman Ranch is really good, or any other brand of things we consume. So that was really the impetus for me that made me fall in love with wine. It wasn't grandfather's Burgundy cellar. I didn't work in a restaurant and want to be a somm or anything like that. I fell in love with it in a way that was a little bit more organic and I think really genuine.
That is a beautiful kind of romantic perspective on. I've never heard that kind of thought or contrast to anything else before.
I mean,
I
think
love
about
that.
all of us. I mean, Jason, you have a cellar full of wine. You drink wine, and you probably pull the bottle out and say, "Okay, it's this producer, it's this vintage," and you as a wine nerd go, "Okay, are the 17s drinking good? Okay, what was the 17 vintage like? Was it okay? It was a warm year. It was a relatively dry year. Okay, this producer, oh, this is from the so and so vineyard in the Willow Creek district. Okay, well, it's grown on limestone. It's going to taste. I mean." Nothing else you probably consume on a regular basis, or anyone else in this podcast, do you ever think about all those questions in your mind when you're actually consuming something?
I really enjoy tequila, and I love the similarities that it's just blue agave, but the plants are different on elevation and the soils. And I like the contrast to wine, but even that doesn't come close to the point you're making. It just
Yeah.
it's still not that unique vintage to vintage.
If you dive into mezcal, you would get more detail because they talk
Sure.
about the variety of agave they grow. They talk
Yes,
about,
yes.
but even still, people think, "Oh, coffee." It's like, yeah, coffee
Mm,
doesn't even come close. I mean, they're in the same realm, but they never really touch where wine's at.
yeah,
And
no,
that's
you're
why we
right.
all love it. I mean, I think
Yeah.
maybe we don't think about it that way, but when it comes down to it, it's like, why do we all love wine? I think that's a big part of it, is that it goes it the as they say, like the lake is very wide and it's very deep.
Yeah.
Well,
No, that's
keeping it simple, it is after a period of time. Jason and I talk about this all the time. You keep looking at the label of what you're drinking, or you've gone out tasting, and in your mind, you're collecting all this data that says, boy, this certain region or this AVA, I seem to enjoy those wines from there most. And it's not something I write down or keep track of in the cellar tracker. I already know in my head what I like, because I've collected all. What do I like? Bien Nacido Syrah. I do like that a lot.
Hmm.
Do I enjoy other Syrahs? Of course, but that's probably my favorite. But
Hmm.
but that's just accumulation over time.
And there's people probably on this podcast. I mean, there's plenty of consumers that their baseline level of how deep that they go in wine is, I tried this wine and I really like it, and that's why I drink it. And that's about as deep as they need to go. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But the great thing about wine is that if you want to go deep, it just keeps going. I mean, there's more and more and more you can learn. To your point, Jason, at some point with tequila, you reach a floor or a ceiling in which there's there's not much more that you can extract out of it. You're like, well, I think I've learned about as much as there is to learn. Where with wine, it just keeps going, you know. We could
yeah.
sit here all night long till 2 in the morning, and people could keep asking me questions about my wine, and I would probably keep having answers. Probably wouldn't run out of answers about why it is the way that it is, and that's something that's really beautiful about wine.
It is, and it's really cool that that's something that kind of captured your imagination at such a young age. And
Feel very grateful.
and I want to ask you about this rumor. I want to know if there's any truth to this. At your high school graduation, is it
Yeah.
true that at your graduation ceremony that it
Mhm.
was announced that you wanted to become a famous winemaker?
That is true. And the funny thing about that is my now wife, who I did not go to high school with, was actually at my high school graduation, and she remembers that. And she didn't
No
meet me
kidding.
until 10 years later. And she goes, I came to your high school graduation, and I remember that they said you were going to be a winemaker. I thought that was the weirdest thing when she was like 16 at the time. And they,
Awesome.
I was probably the only person in my high school that's actually said that they already knew what their career aspirations were. Uh,
Yeah, which
or
is
at
a
least
blessing.
said it and followed through with it. But
Right.
I don't look as that as I knew what I was doing. I mean, you say a lot of stupid things when you're, seven. I graduated high school when I was 17, so it's like you say a lot of dumb things when you're 17 years old. But I think that I feel very grateful that here I am, and that was 26 years ago, and I haven't lost my lust for winemaking since. So.
Were you already working a wine job when you were in high school, like a part-time job? That
I worked in a vineyard for about a year and a half, and then
okay?
I got my first job at an actual winery, um, 3 weeks after I graduated from high school that summer.
Wow.
And then that fall, I was, of course, working that harvest. Yeah. Before I even turned 18. Yeah. So
When
that was 2001. I worked in a vineyard in 99, a little bit in 2000, and then in 2001, I started working in a winery. And then in 2002, um, I is where I started, is actually the year I started my own label, believe it or not. And that was in
at
Paso
19,
Robles. Someone just asked
19
where.
years
I,
old,
I
right?
was in Paso. Yeah. Someone asked me where, but the winery was actually just outside my hometown here, which is in Cayucos, which is if you're in Paso Robles, you go west about 30 minutes till you hit the coast, which is where I am right now, which is nice because it's 64 degrees outside. It's 94 degrees in Paso. So it's nice to be here. Um,
Uh, and nice new vineyards developing out in that area too.
yes. Yeah, we can get into that a little bit later, but it's an exciting area to grow wine, that's for sure.
Yes. So at graduation, you early graduate at 17, you're already 2 years exposed or working around wine. Um, wasn't there an oyster bar somewhere in the mix, maybe right after high school?
Yeah, so I when I was in college, um I was working at an oyster bar in Cambridge called the Sea Chest. And so I think I was 19 when I was there. And
Good restaurant.
yeah, I'm actually going there tomorrow to pour them some wine because they sell my wine. I'm gonna have to stay and eat some oysters. But
That's cool.
But yeah, so I was working at an oyster bar. This was my sophomore year at Cal Poly, studying winemaking, and I was working at a winery as well. Working there, whatever summer job, and I was saving up my tip money. I saved up $1,000 at the end of summer 2002, and I was getting ready to go work harvest again at the winery I worked at in 2001. And I said, I'm going to take all my tip money and I'm going to use it. And I'm going to, I'd always wanted to make my own wine. I said, this year's the year I'm going to go ahead and launch my company. And so I took this was back when you could buy grapes for like $1,000 a ton in Paso Robles, 2002. Took my $1,000 and got three older French oak barrels from a friend of mine for free and bought my first ton of Petit Syrah and made my first Petit Syrah and launched my label that year, commercial. And then I barrel aged it for a couple of years. And then I graduated Cal Poly in 2005. And I was 21 when I graduated college. And I released my wine just before my 21st birthday, and started selling my wine sort of after I
That's
turned
funny.
21.
That's funny.
And it initially, from the get-go, started my Aaron brand to focus on Petit Syrah. And that was, at that time, and still to this day, is a very sort of left of center approach to having a brand, focusing on a variety that is a bit of an unsung hero. And there's still very few brands really in the country that focus on Petit Syrah. I mean, people always drop names like Stag's Leap and whatnot, but truly that's not their focus is not on Petit Syrah. Their focus is on
No,
Cabernet. They
yeah,
happen to make
yeah,
Petit Syrah.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
Um, so let me back up here. So $1,000 in seed money. I want to make sure I get this right. Eh, And you got the benefit of a few barrels, but what do you think it would cost to do that, to duplicate that today?
I recently had I try to go to Cal Poly every quarter and speak to the students and try to be a mentor to some of them and talk to them. And just recently, I think it was about a month ago, I was speaking at Cal Poly with some students, and a lot of people asked me that question, and I had a little bit of a hard time answering it. So my best reference point was to ask my assistant winemaker who graduated from Cal Poly 3 years ago and ask him, because he started his own label. And I said, why don't you have Gibson answer that question? Gibson, what does it cost to start your own label today? And he said, oh, I started with like $18,000 or something like that. And I thought, Jesus. And he's getting to make his wine for free in my facility pretty much while he's on the clock and, whatever. So it's a lot more today. And so that's why I think that you guys have probably interviewed maybe you've interviewed a lot of other winemakers in Paso Robles. Um, Maybe some that are small brands like myself, that have, you know, probably not as old as my brand. I mean, there's not a lot of people my age that have been making their own wines for 25 years. Um, but most of those people that have done that have done it via investors or getting investors or having, some financial capacity outside of myself. I mean, I was the true blue bootstrap, grassroots. I've never had an investor. I've never had a dollar. I've never had someone else's money come in. It's just, I've always just worked my butt off and done this from the ground up. And that's a really difficult thing to do today. So I feel for young people that want to do that and struggle to be able to do that. I get it. Very much so. But yeah, I'm also feel very lucky and very honored that I've been able to keep doing this, starting from essentially a 19-year-old kid with $1,000 in his pocket, and here we are, 25 years later, and still doing it.
But
Really is amazing. Yeah.
Jason and I have had that discussion, and we wonder how some of these startups, how they have to have backing. I mean, a lot. I mean, we've had everybody from all over the map. Most of them are successful business people or professional people that have built a winery. They may not be making the wine, but they're hired a winemaker. But we've recently run across several that are, I would call, more investment
Yeah.
leaning operations now, just because of the cost is so high.
Part of it's the cost, and part of it's how people want to grow their business, and it's a lot more hard work to do it with nothing than it is to do it with someone else's money. For example, we've been buying G2 Syrah. We buy the same block, basically that Don Burns and Top buys. It's the same hillside, it's the same clone, same rootstock, everything. We've been buying that for years, and our G2 Syrah is $9,340 a ton. And I was buying my first Petite Sirah in 2002 was $900 a ton.
Goodness.
And I
Wow.
started with $1,000. So $1,000 would get me basically a bucket full of Bill Gibbs's Syrah today, which isn't going to be make me much of a saleable product. So
Right. Right.
um so
We
there's
heard the whole story behind the pricing of the grapes though last 2 months ago. So.
yeah. The joke I say about paying $900 a ton for Petite Sirah in 2002 is you could probably buy a lot of Petite Sirah today for $900 a ton in Paso Robles because the grape market's way down. So here we are 25 years later, the cycle's come back around. But yeah, I mean I'm one of the only Petite Sirah focused brands in the whole country, and I've been doing it for 25 years, and I'm proud of it, and I'm proud to be representing what I think is one of California's greatest varietals. It's something that's totally unique and it's totally not replicated by hardly anyone in California. Um,
It's totally delicious.
and it's
It's
totally delicious. Most
I'm so
importantly,
surprised that more don't do it for that very reason. It's
This
yeah,
yeah, this bottle here is. Thank you so much too, Aaron and Justin.
yeah,
This is delicious.
that's a 2023, correct?
it's
Correct.
Yeah, great vintage.
What
nice
is it,
vintage.
Mike?
Huh?
We couldn't see it. What one?
It's a
It's a
2023 Petite
23.
Sirah.
I don't know
Yeah,
what.
so that's
Oh,
that's
the
a blend of 23 is going to be a blend of whew, 6 to 8 vineyards. It's going to have a lot of Ducey Petite Sirah in it because I buy a lot of grapes from the Duceys. You guys are probably familiar with Duceys. If those people out here are Zinfandel drinkers, I buy a good amount of head pruned, mostly dry farm Petite Sirah from them, as well as Petite Sirah from Calesta, Petite Sirah from Onyx, Petite Sirah from Lopi. Also has G2 Syrah in it and Calesta Syrah, I believe. They used to have Denner Syrah before they sold to Gallo. So yeah, I mean, it's a bench. To me, it's the benchmark. A Petite Sirah and Paso Robles, and certainly one of the benchmarks in California. I'm not afraid to say that because I've done all the tastings blind with many, many winemakers, and I believe that we truly are one of the top benchmarks in the country for this
I
variety.
agree.
I happen
agree.
to be a fan of the labeling. I do like that it's simple. Details you need are on the back. Obviously your logo on the front. On both on two bottles. I don't know your whole lineup, but except for the other labels you do.
Yeah.
But this is really, really nice looking.
The thing about the label, Mike, is that simple is timeless. I drew that label on a piece of paper in, I think, a statistics class when I was in Cal Poly. And I literally doodled it on a piece of paper and put it in an old flatbed scanner that they used to have,
Wow.
and created that label. And that label's been exactly the same since my 2002 vintage. It's never changed. And so it's simple to me. It's timeless. I look at great brands like Ridge, or like Raffinelli and like all these old brands from Sonoma, Mayacamas from Napa, and I just love that the labels have just been the same. And
Raffinelli. You dropped Raffinelli on the
yeah,
Paso podcast.
yeah, yeah.
Love it.
And
I happen to be a fan of Raffinelli myself.
Big
yeah,
time.
just
Crushing.
unabashedly unchanged, and honestly, like if you look at it, like was I a little bit inspired by the sparkling brand J, which obviously is owned by Gallo now, but yeah, I mean like J, it's iconic, it's simple, it's just a J
A
on a label.
swish. I won't call it a swish because somebody else owns it.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
So,
yeah,
Aaron, we know you referenced Cal Poly, but you also did some studying or got some education in Australia too, right?
I did my master's degree in winemaking in Australia at the University of Adelaide. So when I finished, so I finished Cal Poly 2005. I went on to be the assistant winemaker at the winery I was working at in college, which was called Four Vines, which eventually, I don't know if you guys have ever had Four Vines over the years, but they eventually sold to a larger conglomerate. I was gone by the time they sold, and then I decided in 2007 to move to Australia for 2 years and do my master's degree in winemaking. I grew up in a small town. I still live here in my small hometown, and I definitely wanted to make sure. I made a promise to myself when I was young that I would live in another country, and I wanted more education. I wanted to see the world of wine outside the Central Coast, which is interestingly something that a lot of winemakers in Paso Robles have not done, believe it or not, is see the world outside of the Central Coast. Not that it's not a wonderful place. And so I went ahead and moved to Australia, enrolled in graduate school, did my master's degree, kept my brand going the whole time. I was flying home from Australia and putting all of my flight bills on a credit card for 2 years. Every 3 months or so, I would come home, take care of wines, would come home for harvest for just 3 weeks every year until I finished university, the end of 2008. And then when I came back from Australia, continuing my own brand, I ended up taking the job as the winemaker for Onyx Winery here in Paso Robles. They were just starting, so I kind of made their first wines. And then I left there to go work at Saxum for 2 years. So I was at Saxum with Justin Smith for 2 years. And then after my stint at Saxum was when I decided that I was going to learn how to fully live on bone soup and go all in on my own brand. I was making about 1,000 cases, 900 cases or 1,000 cases at that point, and just learned what it like to be a poor vagabond winemaker full time. So.
How was the experience overall in Australia?
I think that Australia is one of the greatest winemaking cultures in the world. I think that people grossly underestimate the seriousness and passion about Australian winemakers and also the quality of the wines. And the thing about Australian wine is this is something that I think that we really embody at my winery, which is that if you talk to a lot of great Australian winemakers, there's this humbleness and this sort of candor about the way that they feel about wine that's so counter to the way that most consumers think about wine, which is that it's elitist and it's special. And you sit down with great winemakers and you sit there and you drink a beer, you don't even drink wine. And they say, at the end of the day, we just make good booze. That's what we do. And these are people that they're growing. If people in this podcast or Zoom meeting don't know, Australia grows the oldest grapevines in the world today. They've been so isolated from phylloxera. They have still quality producing grapevines that are from the 1840s there. So they have almost 200-year-old vineyards that they're still making amazing wines off of. Nowhere else in the world can touch that. These are people that are so hardworking, they're so passionate about what they do. But when it comes down to wine, they're serious about their wines, but they don't really take themselves that seriously. It's almost a very sort of blue collar way of looking at the wine industry. And I've always adored that because, again, I didn't come from a grandfather that was pouring me Burgundy. I came from, a hardworking middle class family. And so for me, and that's the way I've grinded my whole life. I've never expected anything for anyone. I've just worked hard and tried to make really good, honest wine. And I think they embody that so much. So my experience there was amazing. I was just there for the entire month of February. I'm still just totally in awe in some of the wines that they're making. We never see them here. They don't really end up on our
Tenfold,
shores
maybe, but
anymore.
yeah.
I mean, the wines coming out of Tasmania are unbelievable. And there's a lot of exciting things going on down there still, I think, in wine.
Well, I want to pick your brain about that another time and figure out what to try. Penfolds, of course, everybody knows about them, but I'd love to hear some thoughts on some other labels to try.
Yeah, and Penfolds makes great wine. And saying
Definitely.
Penfolds is kind of like saying, oh yeah, Paso Robles, that's like Dow, right? And you're like, well, I don't think that we should compare. Now, that being said, I just drank a bottle of Penfolds the other day that I love, but they're the biggest winery in Australia. So it's sort of like
Right.
saying like, yeah, they make great wine, but like you haven't even having Dow doesn't mean you've even scratched the surface of Paso Robles. The
Right.
same way that if
Which,
you've had Penfolds, you haven't even touched anything that you
yeah.
experience in
Which,
Australia.
and that's my point. That's why I want to get your guidance on maybe some other labels to try that are available here.
For sure.
Uh, okay, so we let's move into now. You're back and forth from Australia, which is amazing. I mean, just the grind from the very beginning and how you've done this organically. Wow, it's super impressive.
Thank you.
Um, Yeah, I mean, nobody doing it for you. It wasn't, you're not cashing out of a tech job. Your parents aren't doing it for you. You
Yeah.
really, from the very beginning. Yeah.
You don't hear those
Um,
stories very much anymore, Jason. It's kind of interesting. And that's not to say that my story is superior in any way, because I don't feel that way about it. I just, I love a good grassroots underdog story. And to do that to, what I believe is making some of the greatest wines in Paso Robles, I think that in itself it is a feat. And I don't mean to say that as like a pat on the back. It's just a story you don't hear very much anymore.
it's true. I mean, and we hear these stories routinely. That's what we do, and it is a very unique story, and it's a credit for the work that you've put in. Uh, but I'm also fascinated by the vision that you had. I mean, just at such a young age, first of all, picking wine at such a young age. A lot of people just never decide what they want to do. You did decide what you wanted to do, and you stuck with it. You ground it out to make it happen with tip money, which is amazing. But then you come into it with a kind of a unique vision too. I'm not coming
Yeah.
in to make the $80 GSM that everybody else makes in Paso.
And
Uh,
just to comment on that, I agree with you that there's too many $80 GSMs in Paso Robles at the moment. So thank you for stating that. And there's a plethora of them, and it's becoming a commodity product. But look, I mean, I'm not going to give myself this vision that I mean, I was, like 17 or 19 years old when I started my brand. Did I have intention behind it? Yeah, vision. You might be giving me a little bit too much credit, but it's actually quite simple, which is that I knew that I was going to be, when that time I bottled my first wine, I was going to be a very young winemaker. I was going to be one of the youngest winemakers in California that was going to be out there trying to sell my product and trying to convince a bunch of people to taste my wine. I knew the uphill battle that was in front of me. And so part of me was like, hey, I was making Zinfandel and Petit Syrah at Four Vines. I loved the Petit Syrahs that we were making at Four Vines. I thought these were really, really cool. And I don't really see these around. There's not that many people doing it. So I thought to myself, if I want to go out and make my own wine, I want to do something that I'm interested in first and foremost, because I want to do something that's left of center, because I was young. When you're young, you want to do things differently. You kind of have this rebel mentality, like, well, how am I going to stand out? I want to stand out. I don't want to do what my parents did or do what everybody else is doing. So there was a little bit of that kind of like rebel in me. And the other side of it was telling myself, if I'm going to walk in to a restaurant, for example, in Paso Robles, and Gary Eberly's sitting there having lunch, and I'm going to say, hey, you should taste my Cabernet. We want to taste my Cabernet. I'm 21 years old. And they go, no, we're actually Gary Eberly's over at that table. We're selling his Cabernet. Justin Baldwin was here yesterday. We're selling his Cabernet. So on and so forth is over here. We're selling their Cabernets. I'm pretty good. I don't really think I need to taste your Cabernet, because people weren't going to take me seriously. And so I remember, my very first experiences being out in the sales world was walking in the door. And by the way, when I was 21, I looked like I was about 14. And I walk in the door. I say, "Hey, would you like to?" I'm Aaron Jackson. I'm a winemaker. This was back in the day when you could still do that. People don't really let you like walk in the door with a bottle of wine and say, "Hey, can I open this for you?" And things are different in that world now. But I would say, "Hey, I have this wine for you to taste." And they go, "Ah, I don't know. Like, what do you have? I don't. What are you making?" I go, "I make Petit Syrah," and people would say, "Oh." I actually don't even have a Petit Syrah on my menu right now. I would actually love to taste your Petit Syrah. I haven't even tried a Petit Syrah in a couple of months. And it just was this instantaneous, like, this is my opportunity. And all of a sudden, I'm selling tons of wine. And I'm not saying I deserved it. I mean, the wine was good, but I mean, I didn't have this tenure. I didn't, and I didn't have to compete with Gary Epperly because he didn't make Petit Syrah. And so it was, yeah, there was some strategy there, but I didn't do it for capitalistic reasons. I actually liked Petite Sirah, and it just so happened that not very many people were making it, and it gave me an opportunity to enter the market. And that gave me, a great chance to grow a brand as a young person with no money.
you are, I mean, and so, okay, I hear your point on vision, but
Mhm.
I'll rewind and reword back to your unique lane because I think that's what you've established. You've got some of the biggest. By the way, probably the best QPR in all of Paso, right? Like,
Thank you. I work really hard at that.
Yeah,
yeah,
right. Yeah.
for real. Um, but simultaneously, some of the biggest, most delicious wines while making Pinot as well. Smart
Mhm.
enough, of course, not to be growing the grapes in Paso, but or sourcing grapes in Paso. But you've got this spectrum, which is also a pretty unique thing to have uh, Petite Syrah or the blend of Petite Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Syrah. I mean, that's a monster, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then a lineup of delicious, high quality Pinots. And so I'm curious, like, how do you develop that approach?
It all kind of stems from the same foundation, Jason, which is that, for someone to create a brand that is focused on Petite Sirah by nature is very left of center. I've never, as cliche as it sounds, if you look at the back of my label, it says boundaries are few on the road less traveled. That's kind of our catchphrase at the winery, right? And the reason that I say that is because I was always motivated. For me, my motivations always come from trying to find something that people aren't doing and try to. I'm someone that's a lifelong learner. Wine fascinates me. I want to constantly be challenged and be engaged and be pushing the boundaries of what we're doing with wine. My vessel for doing that with Aaron has been Petite Sirah for the last 25 years. At some point, I made only Petite Sirah from 2002 until 2009. In 2010, I started making Trespasser, which is one of the wines that you gentlemen have, because I wanted to start branching out into how Petite Sirah played nice with other varieties. So what kind of blends could I create with Petite Sirah? And that was a realm that no one had ever ventured into. I mean, we know that Petite Sirah had been a blender into Zinfandel and Cabernet for decades and decades, but people weren't reverse engineering it and saying, let's start with Petite Sirah as a base, like we do with other varieties, like they do with Cabernet, like they do with Syrah, and also start building other varieties into that to create really new expressions of California wine. And that was exactly what I started doing. Trespasser was my first wine. We've now branched out into other wines. Then when it came to making Pinot Noir, I'm a product of the coast. I've lived on the coast my whole life, and as I'm driving from Cayucos to Paso Robles every day for decades now, there was a point in which I was driving. I would go to Cambria sometimes to either go surfing or visit friends, and as I was driving over to Paso Robles, I was starting to drive by vineyards that were being planted out on the coast. And these were vineyards that were grown in a place that no one else had ever grown Pinot Noir at. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the new frontier. This is pioneering territory. This is really exciting. If I'm going to make Pinot Noir, and I know how Mike feels about Bien Nacido Pinot Noir, but all of my friends were making, or he loves, excuse me, Bien Nacido Syrah. All of my friends were making Bien Nacido Santa Maria Valley Pinot Noir. And the last thing I felt like the world needed was another Bien Nacido Pinot Noir. But no one had ever had a Pinot Noir that was grown in Cambria. I make a Pinot Noir now that I've made since 2012 from Pismo Beach. How many people have had a wine from Pismo Beach? This is an area that's really exciting. This was pioneering territory. So it totally chimed right in with my persona, which was let's do something different. Let's let's do something that doesn't have a benchmark. And that's something I go back to a lot with Petite Sirah, you guys, is that you guys all drink wines from around the world. You guys all know the varieties that you like. But I would love for you all, you can do it in the comments here, is to try to explain to me what the international benchmark for Petite Sirah is in the world. We could probably name what the benchmark is for Pinot Noir,
Yep,
Cabernet, Syrah. What is it for
yep.
Petite Sirah?
That's a great question.
All
That's
That's
a
a
right.
great
great
question.
question.
Yeah. So someone says Elise. I agree. Hain Vineyard is probably maybe the benchmark. But if the benchmarks exist, they're going to be from California and they might be maybe one wine rather than an estate. I mean, can we say that Elise Concannon, they're certainly a benchmark as far as the longest producing? Are they the benchmark of the best quality? Probably not, but they've been doing it the longest. So this is the conversation we get into is that here we have a variety that is known to so many consumers, but it might be one of the only varieties in the world that doesn't actually have an international benchmark in which everyone else is sort of seeking to emulate. As a winemaker, that is like the most liberating. Some people might think it is terrifying because they don't have that grounding of, sit there side by side with your wine and Grand Cru Burgundy and be like, oh, okay, is mine as good as this? So you're sort of flying blind. But to me, that's a very liberating feeling as a winemaking. It's like every time I make a great Petit Syrah, I get to be part of writing the story of that variety in the world, in history. I mean, those opportunities don't exist in wine very much. I mean, realistically, most of the things in wine have already been done before. Come on, we've been doing this for tens of thousands of years. Like, we're not like rewriting the book very often. But Petit Syrah is actually a variety that gives us that opportunity. And then we're growing grapes so close to the ocean with my other label, with my Akana label on the San Luis Obispo coast. There's not People haven't been growing grapes this close to the ocean in the United States hardly at all for very long. So it's kind of a new pioneering territory as well. So those are the things that motivate me in winemaking.
There's three labels, right?
There is.
Okay. Let's walk through those. I want to be conscious of the time and know that we want to leave a few minutes for questions.
Yeah.
Um, so I know we've only touched on Aaron. There's still other wines and other varietals you're doing with Aaron. So why don't we finish going through Aaron first?
Sure. So we have this wine right here, Trespasser. So this is Petit Syrah, Mourvedre, and Syrah. This is the first blend that I started making in 2010. So I started with Petit Syrah, which I still make the Petit Syrah you guys are drinking right here, 23. I've been making that since 2002. Trespasser, I also make another blend called Sand and Stone, which is basically based in Grenache. So it's Grenache, Petit Syrah, of course, a little bit of Graciano and a little bit of Syrah as well. I also make another blend called Mauka, which is Cabernet, Petit Syrah, and Petit Verdot. And then Citizen, and Citizen is just Syrah and Petit Syrah, mostly G2 Syrah with some Petit Syrah as well. So make 5 wines under the Aaron brand. That's about 1,500 cases in total between those different wines. And then
Where does the Grenache come from?
the Grenache comes from a vineyard called Maison Mason, which I've been buying since 2002. I've been working with the vineyard since 2002. I've been buying it for my son since 2012. It is on Kyler Canyon, very close to Copia.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember where Terry Hogue was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
It's
is
sort
not
of
trust.
it's above the hill. It's above Truss, higher up than Truss, and kind of across from Epic's Paderewski Vineyard. It's all
Nice.
limestone. It's a beautiful vineyard.
Very nice.
Um, and so Aaron is 5 wines, and then we have a second tier label, which is basically the wines that we do not put into those 5 wines, whether they be extra barrels. Sometimes they're what we call declassifications, meaning they didn't quite meet the top cut. They go into a second label called Keola. Keola is my middle name. My mother's from Hawaii. If you guys are wondering why I have brown skin, it's because my mother's Hawaiian. And Keola is my middle name, and so that's basically a wine that we primarily sell to restaurants and to wholesale. We do sell to our wine club as well. And then the other label is called Akana. So this is the San Luis Obispo Coast label you guys can see. This is one of the Pinot Noirs. Akana was my great grandmother's last name. She was the one that named me Keola. Her name was Esther Akana. She named me Keola. And so everything I make under the San Luis Obispo Coast, primarily Pinot Noir, but I also make some Chardonnay. I make some Pinot Gris. I make some Viognier. Those wines all come from the San Luis Obispo Coast, and we make like 9 wines. That's the problem with making Pinot Noir. When you start making Pinot Noir, you end up making a million Pinot Noirs because it's so fun. And so we have a pretty big contrast. And these wines all come from the other side of the San Lucia Mountains. As I mentioned earlier, I'm in my hometown of Cayucos. It's about 64 degrees outside. It was 94 in Paso today. So it took me 32 minutes to get here from the winery, and it was 30 degrees difference in temperature. So we're in total Pinot Noir country here on the coast. We can, very long, cool growing season. The temperatures are typically in the high 60s to high 70s. Anyone here that's ever been to Paso Robles, you guys are the Paso Robles wine fanatics. You guys know how warm it can be in Paso Robles. So it's this wonderful contrast. We're very lucky to be able to grow 2 different styles of wine in ideal climates 30 minutes away. I mean, that's almost unheard of in most growing regions in the world. So we have all the fog and the wind over here. So we can make true, proper, cool climate Pinot Noir and white wines here. And then
Chardonnay
jump
from the same region.
Chardonnay as well. Yep, yep. And the vineyards are between about 1 and 6 miles from the ocean. So these are actually some of the most coastal vineyards anywhere in the United States. So super, super coastal vineyards with climate change and everything like that. I mean, these vineyards are so moderated by the cold Pacific Ocean that that we talk a lot about vintage variation in Paso Robles. On the coast, I mean, it's like they're almost the same every year. People always say, "How is the vintage?" I'm like, "Do you mean on the coast or in Paso?" Because Paso Robles, we
Great
can
point.
have a really hot vintage and then a very cool vintage. Here on the coast, where we grow Pinot Noir, it's kind of like almost the same every year, which is fantastic as a winemaker. It's much
Right.
easier.
Okay,
Um, Go ahead, Mike.
so I think you were just talking about the coast.
Hmm.
You were instrumental in advancing the AVA slow coast, right?
I was
Spearheaded
basically
it
I was
from
pretty
what I
much the architect of the whole thing. Yeah. So
and when did that get the designation?
2022. So I started working on the Slow Coast AVA. I started making wines from the coast in 2012. Granted, even then there wasn't that many vineyards out here. In 2014, I started spearheading the creation of this AVA, the San Luis Obispo, or also known as the Slow Coast. And that process took 8 years. It was pretty unbelievable how long it takes to actually create an AVA. It's pretty absurd. But it was a really great experience, and now the region's gotten a lot of notoriety. There's a lot of winemakers that are making wines from the Slow Coast now. You guys have had those winemakers here on the show. You mentioned having Scott Hawley. He does Pinot Noir from the Spanish Springs Vineyard, which is another vineyard that I source a large majority of my Pinot Noir from. It's in Pismo Beach. If you go to Paso Robles today and you drive around some of these wineries, a lot of wineries here have at least maybe one wine they make from the Slow Coast. I mean, we have a whole brand that we make like 8 or 9 wines, so we are a true like Slow Coast brand. But a lot of winemakers on Paso Robles, they want to make a really proper Chardonnay or they want to make a really proper Pinot Noir, and you can't make those in Paso Robles. It's far too
Right.
hot. So 30 minutes, 40 minutes away, they can go to the coast and get beautiful Chardonnay, beautiful Pinot Noir, and make those wines at their wineries in Paso Robles. It's a great opportunity.
So I got one other comment, and I don't want it to be too prickly, but I was reading your bio and I
Yeah.
was laughing because you are a big advocate of not of trying to keep the pricing in a place that is more accessible to everybody. But here you worked at Clos Solin with what you worked with Guillaume and you work for Saxum. And I don't, I mean, you didn't want your wine to be elitist, and I get that. But I don't know what that says about us because we buy wine from them. But um, they also did something. I'm always interested in the business aspect. They did something. They left Tin City, not Saxum in particular, but they bought vineyards. They built these $3 million tasting room production facilities. Is that you? Does that drives a lot of that up, doesn't it?
Oh, I
The
guess you're
cost per
asking. I
bottle.
guess you're asking what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Um, so I would say that you don't build three is a gross underestimation, by the way, Mike. I think you're a little,
I
yeah,
probably
you're
right.
about maybe a third of the way there. So to
I was
build
comparing it to the slum I live in. No.
yeah, so to build a $10 million cave, um,
Oh,
you
that's new. Yeah,
yeah,
gotcha.
you don't build it and then raise the price. You raise the price and then build it. Um, and you're talking about two people that are very good friends of mine.
I get it.
I mean, Justin Smith was here at my house on the 4th of July, as was Matt Trevison from Linne Coloto. And Justin and I are going fishing together, just the two of us on Saturday. So we're good buds. And you mentioned, Guillaume. I built my winery in Tin City with Guillaume, and there was a reason why we built it together is because we were both broke. And we realized that we could lease the building and build it and pay half the rent each, and it was like having a roommate. We're like, wow, this is amazing. Everything's cut in half. And obviously, Guillaume's been incredibly successful, and his wines do cost twice as much money as mine. And yes, we do buy the same fruit, but it's different approaches. It's business. You choose your own path. And for me, um, you're absolutely right. I don't want wine to be elitist. I know that we make some of the greatest wines in Paso Robles, and I don't think that they need to cost three digits. I have a lot of customers and club members and other people that tell me that I'm an idiot, but it's still my winery, so I can make my own decisions. Um, we've raised our prices two times in like 9 years, and I think those of you that drink Paso Robles wines are probably expecting a $10 price increase every year. Um, and is that hard as a business owner? It absolutely is. I'm being candid. It's difficult, but for me, I didn't grow up in a family uh, of elitist people that could drink elitist wines. And so for me, I never forget that. I feel an obligation to make sure that people can still buy my wines. And we're all consumers here, and I'm a wine consumer myself. I buy a lot of wine. I don't buy a lot of wine that costs over $100. And that's not because I don't think wine is not worth over $100. It's just hard to buy a lot of wine when it costs over $100. And I don't find myself drinking those wines all the time. And I drink wine every single night. And I'll happily drink a $60 bottle of wine every night of the week. I mean, for me, I'm a wine professional. This is what I do. I'm happy to do that. But I also don't want people buying all my wine and then never drinking them.
Yeah.
I want people to enjoy them. I don't want them to look at them and be like, I'm afraid to open it. I'm afraid to open it. I'm afraid to open it. It goes back to the way that I feel about wine. Wine is meant to be opened. It's meant to be shared. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to be consumed. And yeah, someone here was drinking a 2001 Sand and or 2021 Sand and Stone. That's great. Maybe there's someone here that's drinking an older wine than that, and that's awesome. But I had gone to far too many club members' houses before and say, oh, I have 9 vintages of Saxum. I've never opened a single bottle. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's delicious. I love Saxum. It's like my favorite wine in Paso Robles, and all these people are buying it and they're not drinking it. What a shame. I mean, we should be, but they're like, well,
There is a culture out there, Aaron, that you hang on to that wine for a long time. There is a culture out there, and I would say 5 years is fair, but some people hold on to it much longer than that, and it's great wine.
Well, I
I'm
almost
just
didn't.
a little more caught up about the elitist part because I do buy wine from both of them, and Guillaume's rise is different from Justin Smith, who we don't have Justin on yet. We've had Guillaume and his brother on before, and I love all those guys. They're all great. But
me too. Yeah.
I appreciate your response because I'm interested in the whole business aspect too. We get a lot of comments in the group about the price of wine, and 5 year. Jason can probably back me up on this. Five years ago, is that Paso's not Napa. Now we're getting more Paso's becoming Napa comments, and it's a fair. It's fair to for people to bring that up. I mean, sometimes, but whatever we're doing, whatever you're doing in Paso, they're still jumping ahead 2 steps further. So you'll never
It's
catch
fair for
up. Let's put it that way.
It's fair
Yeah,
for
I
people to
think
bring
I
up, but
think
it's still not accurate. You still can't go meet a winemaker in Napa and you're still
That's
paying
that's
4 or 5
absolutely
times
one.
more.
You absolutely nailed it. You
Yeah.
cannot do that there. This is what makes you guys special.
I don't get caught up in the perpetual game of one-upmanship that happens in the wine industry. Um, I don't live in a vacuum and live in a bubble where I look around and say, well, so and so's price is this, so my price needs to be that. Oh, well, they raise their prices, my prices need to be this. That's not reality. That's not thinking about the people here on this Zoom call that are actually the consumers. That's not reality. That's two people in the wine industry that are looking at each other's prices and then getting in competition about what they should raise their prices to. It has nothing to do with respecting the consumer or even what the wine's worth in most regards. It's them living in an insular world, and that's not the way I feel about wine. I don't think that
Quite,
that's
and quite frankly, when Jason and I started this thing up, it was all about the small producer and helping lift up in giving or the smaller producer, the ones that don't get mentioned as often, a chance for us to showcase you and your wines. And I think we've been successful at that. But then on the other hand, I couldn't ignore the Gary Everleys, and for a variety of reasons, because we're a big group and people like different wines, and so we branch out. But I mean, our heart is with you and with smaller producers. That's really where our heart is, and it's not about the price for sure.
Well, let me, I'll tell you a little bit of where I come from, Mike. I'll try to respect your time here, but this is a great conversation because I think everyone can appreciate um, and hopefully my candor helps people understand my perspective on this, which is that I have been in the industry for a long time, a lot longer than most people in Paso Robles. And so you see a lot of young assistant winemakers that are starting their own brands, and their very first release is $85. And this is someone that's been making wine for like 4 years. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I think that those things need to be earned. In my mind, I have a reverence, not to hark back to the old man, but hark back to someone like Gary Eberly, um, and someone that's been doing it for a really long time. And do those people look at Gary and say like, oh, well, he's just an old curmudgeon because he never raises prices enough. You can't respect him because he didn't raise his prices enough. This is someone that's seen more than three of their lifetimes in wine. We brought up Raffinelli earlier. I don't know if there's probably certain people here that don't know Raffinelli. Maybe everyone here knows Raffinelli, but I'd be curious. I mean, John's double thumbs upping. I mean, how much does a bottle of Raffinelli Zinfandel cost today? It's probably like $45.
Yeah, 45, 50. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what, 50 years of making an icon, one of the most iconic
Right.
wines in Russian River.
We've had it since 99. Yep.
Yeah.
I think
And
I bought some Cabernet a few years back for 65. Does that sound fair? Right? Does that sound
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
By
so,
the way, they have a cave too, right?
yeah. So my perspective always comes from looking at my idols, looking at the people that I respect, that I admire, and saying, hey, like, here's someone that's been making this wine and been busting their butt for 50, 60 years to be the best they can be. And there's still a humbleness. And I think that comes back to the fact that they respect their consumer and they don't take themselves too seriously. And that kind of harks back to what I said about Australia is the people that they work hard, but they don't take themselves that seriously. It's the anti-elitist, and I love that. I'm a big fan of Dellinger in Russian River. They make beautiful Pinot Noir. They actually make a great Cabernet, a great Syrah. Their wines are only maybe now have just maybe gotten a little more expensive than mine, but they were like my prices, and they've been doing it since '73. And I'm like, if they're a benchmark of mine, who am I to charge more than them?
Right. Mike told a story earlier about me pulling one of your wines out of my cellar that was older and he hadn't had it yet, so I wanted to share it with him, and he loved it. I brought my neighbor, and a good friend of mine, down to meet you at Main Street.
Uh-huh.
Uh, you probably don't know this, but that was his first time trying your wines. He bought a bunch of it and loves it. And I know you could pour that your wine for somebody, tell them it's a $150 bottle, and they wouldn't blink an eye. They would fully
Right.
believe it. Um, it's just really well made, delicious wine. That's the bottom line.
And what does that mean? Does that mean we've distorted the idea of what a $150 wine tastes like?
No, that means that if you take the blinders off, the labels off, um, at the end of the day, your wine would stand up against anybody's wine.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I don't have as much experience as he does, but I can tell the love that's gone into this bottle and that I'm drinking right now, and I can't wait to try the other. I have to tell you the story about you're talking about the $75. That's
Mhm.
a frequent conversation. Who are these guys? Why are they charging $75, $80 on their first release? Who are these people? Well, then it really comes down to who mentored them, where they work, and what vineyard do they buy the fruit from. Sometimes it works. We've run, I know Jason will agree, we've run across some people that we really love the wine. But and sometimes we want to try it, just not taste it because they don't have tasting. So we just buy it to see what it's like. And there's winners and there's okay, but we've never, these people have come from a background that gives us a little bit of promise that and the vineyard really matters. So, in the end, so in the AVA, so it does matter in that respect. But yeah, we're shocked sometimes about the price.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean,
So we've learned.
I've been telling you that I used to work at Saxum and that I've been making wine for 25 years and buy my Syrah from G2 Vineyard, and
See,
yet,
right away, if you'd come out with an $85 bottle, I would have gone, okay, because I know your background. That's
yeah.
how
Yeah.
maybe how
But
minimalist I am about it, but I don't go there all the time. We live in Orange County. We're not there all the time. So sometimes you just have to buy some based on information you have in front of you to give it
yeah,
a try, to try somebody new. But Jason, go.
best best QPR in Paso, hands down.
Yeah, no, I get
Um,
it.
um, yeah, no, Mike, I'm sorry, I wasn't
I want
correcting
people to
you
buy
on
my
this.
wine because it's damn good wine, because it is damn
Right.
good wine, and that's why I
Oh,
want
it's
them to
very
buy it.
good. Very good.
I mean, I want people to buy my wine, period. But
Yeah.
I don't want people to buy my wine because um, I tricked them into thinking it was worth $100.
No, I mean it's
Or
everybody that I've shared it with. Everybody know that has tried it loves your wine, and to that point, and I know we've run long, and thank you for being gracious with your time. But I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about your wine club too, for everybody that is either on the call or will listen to it later when Mike releases it, so they know how to get access to your wine.
Yeah, I mean, our wine club's a little bit unique, I think, from other wine clubs for a number of reasons. One is that you don't have to, you could choose what you want to do, but you get to sign up for essentially when you join the baseline wine club, you get two different labels. So every shipment's three Akana wines and three Aaron wines. And so you basically have three West Side Paso Robles wines that are these, big, rich wines that people in the Paso Robles wine fanatics group all love and adore. So they're right up your alley. Um, and three bottles will probably cost you less money than one bottle of will cost you less money than one bottle of Saxon, but I don't really lead with that, but that's just the brass tacks of it. So these are wines you can drink all the time. And then also you get three wines from the coast. And I think that we're hearing this a lot in our winery, you guys, that despite all the love and the people that come to our winery that are obviously very passionate about Paso Robles wines, we're hearing more and more people that are actually drinking Pinot Noir. It's really shocking. I mean, we're hearing a lot of people that were never Pinot Noir drinkers, that maybe even didn't drink a lot of white wines, but we're seeing a shift. And this is not just younger people. This is all people that are looking for some of those wines that they want to open on a Tuesday. I mean, me and my wife open wine every day, and it's usually very much driven by what we're eating or just how we feel. It's like, oh, I don't feel like a big red tonight, or tonight's a night that I want to open a big banger wine. I want a big rich Petit Syrah tonight. Or sometimes it's like, oh, I just want to open a white wine and have one glass and put it in the fridge and drink it over the next 3 days. So our wine club is unique because, first of all, white wines from the coast, to be perfectly honest, are a hell of a lot better than white wines from Paso Robles. Paso Robles is a very warm climate. It's really not a white wine climate, generally. And so our wine club's really unique. We're one of the few wine clubs that still offers a discount on wine, which is something that I think is interesting. I remember Stefan Aseo, the owner of L'Aventura Winery, one time when I just built my winery in Tin City, with Guillaume from Clos Hélène, we built it together, and we're borrowing something from him at his winery, and he goes, "You are an idiot. No discount. You have to no more discount. You have to get rid of the discount. You are stupid. You are so stupid. No discount." I was like, okay, Stefan. He's the best guy ever. He's like the grandpa to everyone here in Paso. We love him, but he just cracks me up.
I get a
But
discount on his wine because I've been in his club that long.
there you go. See, that was right when he was getting sour on that. But no, I mean, the discount's not the driver. You get a really unique setup of wines. We also offer our Caola Red, that we do, our red wine every year. We offer that by the case to our club. And it's honestly, you talk about QPR, Jason. I mean, that wine is untouchable. I mean, that wine is untouchable. There's no wine that you can buy in Paso Robles that is that good. And I think we sell it for like $22 a bottle or something to the club, only to the club. It's like ridiculous. It's like all we want to do is just give you guys great wine to drink any night of the week. Like, don't think about it. Open up and drink a glass and be like, I didn't drink it anymore, and the bottle's 5 days old. I had to pour it out. I don't even think about it. And so that's what's really cool about our wine club is that, and I also we're a hell of a lot of fun. We are so fun. We're like a very approachable. You guys talk a lot about this nostalgia around brands where you can really feel a connection to the people that make it, the people that work in the company, and not, this sort of elitist mentality that has been, pervasive in Napa and has crept its way into Paso Robles a bit. Um, and we are like the antithesis of that. What I want is I want the wineries the way, how do I say this? I don't want it to be like the way it used to be per se, but I think that there should always be an accessibility in wine. I think the greatest thing about this industry is that you're making a product that is made by these two hands right here, that's made by a person, and you can come by the winery today. I was in the taste room chatting it up with customers, and it's like, I'm just here tasting I was blending today, and like I'm a real person. It's not like a locked gate appointment only. You haven't bought enough wine, you're not worthy. We're just not that kind of winery, and that's not how I want to be.
So I think it also, before we start wrapping up with some questions, you do make wines for Optio too, correct?
I do make the Optio wines too. Yeah, yeah. I've been making their wines from their vineyard for a while now. Oh, were they on here before?
Yeah, we had Troy and Michelle.
Oh, they're
Correct.
great. They're
Yeah, no,
lovely.
they were great guests. Yeah. I don't think we knew your connection to it at the time. They may have mentioned it, but anyways, I was happy to read that you're involved with that, and I've had
Yeah.
some of their wine before, and it's very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, Questions, right, Jason? You ready?
Yeah,
I
let's do
love
it.
questions, by the way. So fire away. Don't be bashful,
So
people.
raise
I
your
love it.
hand, or just raise your hand like this and throw it up, and then we'll unmute yourself and throw it out there. John? No?
Oh
Go
no,
ahead.
I got questions.
All right.
I
God,
just, I
no,
got.
All right, you gotta do it.
don't you come in over the top of me. He called on me.
You were on mute. Stop
I know,
it.
but that was because I was pouring more of this.
Hey, John, I saw you. You were swiping your head.
Like, oh man, no. And
Go ahead.
Patrick was too.
So,
No,
I, actually,
the sand and stone. I mean, we've had it open. What time is it?
hello, Tay.
About 3 hours.
I'm coming in and out of your picture. Sorry.
Oh, you coming in? Oh,
Like a ghost.
there she is. Oh yeah, that's a
Sorry.
better view. Come on in. What happened? You're
Go ahead.
disappearing. No,
Sorry.
this is what is going on in this blend? I mean, who blends Petit Syrah with Grenache, Syrah, and Graciano, other than some crazy guy in Paso?
A little bit of background on that wine. So the reason the wine's called Sand and Stone from the story, because all my wines tell story. I like to say all my wines tell stories. I really fell in love with Grenache originally when I lived in Australia. So
Cool.
if you go to Australia and you go south of Adelaide, where I lived, is a region called McLaren Vale. McLaren Vale is a wonderful old wine growing region. It's much, much cooler than the Barossa Valley, which a lot of people know. But there, they have old vine Grenache that grows in these ancient sand dunes. They're wind-blown sand dunes, and they're beautiful old vines. It's shocking. It looks like a beach. And those were the Grenaches that really blew my mind and really got me inspired, and really got me to fall in love with Grenache.
Mhm.
After I finished graduate school at the end of 2008, I came home, and a couple years later, I ended up, landing at Saxon and working at Saxon. And of course, at Saxon, we're growing Grenache in limestone, and that was a whole place where I'd never had a Grenache from anywhere in California that made my eyes open that way. I was like, whoa, this is next level Grenache. And so I got really inspired to make Grenache. In fact, the first year I ever made Sand and Stone was 2012, which was the year that I was working at Saxon because I was falling in love with Grenache in my home area. And so me being a Petit Syrah maker, my exploration into into Grenache was seeing how Grenache would work with Petit Syrah. I hadn't seen people do that before. So I kind of engineered it that way and started bringing some Syrah into the fold because Petit Syrah and Grenache are both quite fruity, where Syrah is obviously quite savory. So the blend needed some savory components to it. So bringing some spice and things like that into the blend. And then Graciano came in as this great lift in acid and blue fruit. So it's just that's the crazy mad scientist way we engineer blends. But there's a lot of intention behind it. It's not just throwing shit into a barrel and just going, oh, okay, good. There
It
it is.
feels like Rutherford dust is
Yeah.
in there as well. I don't know if that's the sand part or what, but
No, it's the fact that you're getting a lot of Rutherford Cabernets, for example, are quite red fruited. You get a lot of red fruit in Rutherford, and the farther north you go into Napa Valley, you get more red fruit. You get more blue fruit in the south. So if you go towards Mount Veeder and Coombsville, you're going to get it in the blue fruit spectrum. You get into, Oak Knoll and Yountville and Stag's Leap, you're still in the blue fruit spectrum. By the time you get to Oak Knoll or Oakville, excuse me, and Rutherford and Calistoga and St. Helena, the Cabernets become progressively more sort of red fruited. And so you're getting that red fruit probably from that Grenache, and then you're getting kind of those savory characters from the Syrah and the Petit Syrah that are giving you that maybe that savory dustiness. That's just my guess because I'm not drinking the same wine, but I think that your perception is pretty spot on there.
I love it. I love it. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to throw in.
Where's Patrick?
Thank you for that explanation, Aaron. You just taught me a lot because I've got friends who love further south in Napa, and I am like Rutherford and over, and they laugh at me that I don't love. Yeah, some of the Oak Knolls and further south, and so that's amazing. Thank you for that.
And that's a generalization, right? Like
Well, of course.
I'm
Of
a
course.
qualified expert on Napa Valley, but then
But-
you go to Howell Mountain, and your mountain
Yeah.
fruit, you're going to have some
Yeah.
pretty ripe wines, and some blue fruit black fruit comes back in Howell Mountain because it's elevated. There's a lot of exposure. You can get some really, some of the profiles up there are quite ripe. It's not as cold as the valley floor. So, but that's all generalizations. You're going to taste plenty of black fruited and blue fruited Cabernet from Calistoga. It just depends on the winemaker, but that's a generalization.
And all of this is splitting hairs. I do not, when my friends open me Rudd, I do not say no. And so just to be clear.
You have nice friends. Or
Yeah.
rich friends? You have rich friends. I don't know, nice friends?
Yeah. Wine friends.
Wine friends, yeah. So, John, you're quiet, so that's okay.
No,
It's not me. I'm not rich. No.
No,
I
you're the
know
one
I
who's
wine, but I'm not rich.
you've cost us more money than anybody else, I'll tell you that much.
Very true.
So the other question is one of the things that we're always into the sustainability and moving forward. And I think that's actually a very important piece of it. And one of the things, like the bottle, we started off with, we had some sushi and stuff like that. So we came up with a screw top. And I don't have your wines here right now, but the screw top is one thing that we drank them all. We actually looked through the inventory and we drank them all. But the screw top, but also box wines. I really appreciate the 2-liter, 3-liter box wines putting on, who was it that did that for a while?
Tablas
Tablas
and my favorite neighbor.
My favorite neighbor. I actually really enjoy that. Gesundheit. I enjoy that because it's like we keep it out, and we have a family property here, so we have people coming in and out all the time. And when we had those boxes out, they were perfect. They lasted about a week and a half, and everybody just wants half a glass and they go with it. Have you ever thought about doing the box wines? And
I've never thought about it. No, that's an interesting concept. I mean, I don't think that we have the brands that do that, I think, have a little bit more volume than me. I mean, I'm a really small brand. I make 4,000 cases of wine a year. And not to say it's not doable, it's 100% doable. The majority, I think Tabas does theirs in-house, but a lot of people actually send their wine to the Central Valley in a truck because the number one bag and box facility is, you guessed it, at Gallup.
Yeah.
And they have like the state-of-the-art bag and box facility. And they do custom bag and boxing there. I think the Tablas actually might fill their bags, but that's kind of rare. But a lot of people I know that have done it is they fill a truckload of wine, which is thousands of gallons, and send it to Modesto, and they have it just filled there, just because it's
Yeah.
going to be the most fail-safe way to do it. I don't have thousands of gallons of wine that I could.
No, so
Yeah.
then along that same lines is Karn does this. He does custom kegs. I happen to have I enjoy my beer and my wine, and I
Mhm.
have my kegerator sitting over here with my nitro tap and everything else onto it.
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about doing something like that? Some of the small 5 gallon kegs or anything else like that? Because that you can do in-house real easily and get it to the
Yeah,
crazy people
we
like
we do
us.
do kegs.
Okay.
We're gonna do 40 this year. We do those specifically for restaurants. So, for example, one of our Pinot Noirs, if those of you who are familiar with Paso Robles, is the newer restaurant Grace and Rose in Paso Robles. So Grace and Rose used to be, Justin, what was it called? Paso Wine Merchant. Used to be Paso Wine
Oh,
Merchant.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're a
Okay.
new restaurant. They pour our Pinot Noir by the keg. We do custom kegs for the Hatch down in
yeah.
downtown Paso Robles. So we
Okay.
keg for them. Now, most of our keg programs are not for consumers, they're just for restaurant groups. But we do that every year. And I agree. It allows us to deliver a really high quality wine to the restaurant at a place where they can pour it by the glass, and those programs are fantastic. Doing that for a customer, you're probably one of the few I've ever heard that has a kegerator with wine in it at their house. That's you're pretty unique, but in
No,
that regard.
no, no comments, Tay. No comments. So, okay.
No, well,
She's laughing a lot.
yeah, but no, but it just gets back to again at the volume you're doing, or even less than, right? You typically aren't, trying to get somebody at the grocery store to pick your wine up, right?
No, we
As
don't sell our
opposed-
wines at grocery stores, period. So
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I know, but or even a wine shop, so you don't have to do the heavy bottle. I mean, my pet peeves are I don't like paying the shipper, to ship me a heavier bottle of wine,
Mhm.
and I don't want you to be buying a heavier bottle just to put your juice in. I care about what the wine is that's inside the bottle. I don't care about the bottle so much, and I don't care
Yeah.
about the closure on the bottle so much.
We've lightened our bottles over the years. Our bottle today is lighter than it was 6 years ago, which I mean, it saves us money, but also saves the consumer money because you guys, I mean, the shipping rates are absurd
Yeah,
today. I mean, they're so expensive.
yeah,
I'm going to Hawaii to visit some family here in a couple of weeks. And I have some good friends of mine that are wine club members in Hawaii, and they used to be in the wine club, and we used to be able to send them a case of wine. I mean, they always paid a premium. It was like $50, maybe more, $60 to send it to Hawaii. It's $95 to ship a case of wine to
wow.
Hawaii. So I go there every year and I take their 2 club shipments and I just put them on the plane with me, and my bags fly for free. I just hand deliver their case to Hawaii because I want them to enjoy the wine, but I don't want them to pay $95 to ship it to Hawaii. So
right.
these are the realities of what we're facing. And trust me, everyone in the industry is trying to come up with solutions, you guys. It's unprecedented how expensive it's getting to deliver you guys great bottles of wine and not have to charge you $80. It's a huge part of our industry. And I think it's an obligation. The way that I feel is to continue to bring you guys the wines that you want, but not have it cost an arm and a leg. I want
No.
people to drink wine. I want people to be drinking wine every day. And like you said, bag and box and kegs, I'm glad that people are doing that because that's, if you waste a glass, you probably don't care if you got a keg of it, but
No, and that's actually part of it. It's a nice pour. I want just a little bit. I want a lot, and it'll sit for weeks, and it's good. I mean that just crazy thoughts. We ask people this all the time. I figure we ask enough people, and people especially brilliant like you that are thinking outside the box, literally. It's awesome. But anyway,
well, when
Awesome.
my parents first moved to Cayucos here in 1971, their favorite place to go drink wine was Rhoda Winery, which was right behind Pizzetti, now Turley. And you would go there and you could buy a gallon of Zinfandel for $3. And there's probably people in this room that remember those days. And so, $3 was a lot of money back then. But if you wasted the glass or whatever, it's okay. You already had a half a gallon of it, so what does it matter?
Yeah,
And
and then
so, and those were days when wine was drank, freely and in large quantities and was enjoyed. and wine consumption is declining today. And it's not just, there's been research done on this, that a lot of research has been done that wine consumption, they go, oh, it's GLP-1s, oh, it's the young consumers, and those things are all contributing. But a big part of why people just aren't consuming as much wine is because wine has truly, on average, gotten very, very expensive. I mean, everyone that's on this Zoom call, think about your own buying behavior when you go to a restaurant today and the way that you approach things, and how often do you go out to eat, and how often do you buy a bottle of wine when you go out to eat versus the way you did 10 years ago. I can say that because I'm honestly telling you that I don't do it as much. I wish I was, but I don't do it as much. And it's,
Take my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we almost never,
I always take my own.
yeah.
We have a couple places that they have, that
Exceptional.
they specialize in having really good wine. And so we'll do wine pairings and stuff with them because of what their wine labels. But but that's a special occasion
Yeah.
dinner, right? That's
And
not
it's
an
like,
everyday dinner.
we
We got
just
a
have
Hawaii.
to look at our own behavior, look at the way that we act, and think about that, because I just, at the end of the day, want us all to be enjoying wonderful wine all the time. And I understand that, a lot of us are not doing that as often, and a big part of that is cost.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think so. Here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that's most of the restaurants here. If they weren't doing it before, they're doing BYOB now, and they charge zero corkage because that's part of the deal, right? Like if I got $50 to spend on chow, I'd rather spend $50 on chow and bring a couple nice bottles with me, and my bill's going to be $50, right?
So we're all
not
moving to
150
Fort Worth,
bucks.
basically, is what you're saying.
Sorry?
That sounds great.
I think you can go to Dallas.
Yeah, so it's kind of unique here, especially because barbecue is so expensive here because the beef prices have gone through the roof, right? And you're going to drink red wine with beef, so there's that. But I have a question, Aaron. This isn't really wine specific, but more region specific. So I was stationed out at Edwards Air Force Base starting in '95. So that was when my wine education first started, way back then. So I have this romantic attachment to Paso from the very beginning. I've seen it change from then to now. We still go out there 2 or 3 times a year as best as we can. Recently I saw an article, maybe like 2 weeks ago, that Paso Robles has petitioned the FAA to put a spaceport in out there. So this is not something that happens next weekend. It's a long process to get the FAA to do anything. But if and when that happens, I mean, what happens to Paso? It's not going to be like a large commercial airport. It's going to be a spaceport. But the eyes that now are going to be trained on Paso for things that have nothing to do with wine and what Paso is known for, it's going to bring a lot of attention to the area. And I mean, Paso's not today what it was 15 years ago, even 5 years ago, right? As someone that's in the wine industry in Paso Robles, like, you got any thoughts on that? Like, where does your head go when you think about that?
Well, I'll let you know that the first time I heard about that was actually on the news today when I was listening to the radio. I do actually still listen to the radio when I drive home from work sometimes. Literally, when I was driving home at 5:30 today, I actually heard that for the first time, that they were thinking about building a spaceport. I've been asked this question several times, not in regards to the spaceport, but in regards to the future of Paso Robles. It's a complicated question because the growth that we've had in Paso Robles has been, you can't deny that has been foundational to the success of my small business, was the fact that Paso Robles in general has grown. There is a Facebook group that you guys are all a part of called Paso Robles Wine Fanatics. And 10 years ago, nobody knew what the hell Paso Robles was. And so these kind of Facebook groups probably did not exist because no one knew where Paso Robles was. And that's a function of many things that have happened in Paso Robles. The wine industry is a big part of it, but investment that's come to the area. And like anything, there's a good side and a shadow side to everything. So I don't know how it's going to change things. I don't have much of a comment on it, other than I know that investment in this area is only going to increase. As you all know, it's a beautiful area. It's close to the coast. It still has a small town feel. I don't think Paso Robles is going to become Silicon Valley anytime soon. Is it going to continue to change? Yeah. Will some of those changes be good? For sure. I mean, my marketing manager Justin's on this call, and I'd tell you one thing: Justin loves a great restaurant more than anyone. He's a fantastic cook, but he loves to go out and eat at nice restaurants. And when he first moved to Paso Robles, he's from Jersey originally. He probably had a hell of a time finding a good restaurant. And now there's great restaurants, and those are going to continue. And those are great in some ways. They hurt the pocketbook a little bit, but it's nice to have nice restaurants. But it's also changed the landscape of Paso Robles. I mean, you have a lot of people with very investment, capitalistic interests that have come to Paso Robles. And sometimes, again, that's a great thing because they bring really cool things to the area. But is it slowly, in some ways, hurt some of the farming charm of Paso Robles? Maybe. My wife and I always like to say that change is coming whether you like it or not. And the only thing we can do is hope to try and steer that change in a direction that still fits with the soul of Paso Robles.
So I hope I got this right. A spaceport. I had to look it up. Is that what you said, Bob? Spaceport?
It is, yeah. So, that's the next.
That's rocketry, though, right?
Well, no, it's more like space launch vehicles that actually take off and land on the Earth. Like, imagine a space shuttle that carries passengers, right? Like for commercial use, not like like Elon Musk, launching a rocket,
Right.
out in space.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the next. By the way, that's the next AVA that I'm working on is the Moon AVA. We're working on the moon.
I do want to add on to what Aaron was talking about.
You know the geology
Yeah, I got it all figured out. Yeah.
I
Moon
do
dust.
wanna add on to what-
Dust is the new limestone, Mike. I'm telling you.
I
But
think
don't call your first. Don't put crater on any of the labels. Okay.
No, I do want to add on what to Aaron was saying, because I think that was a good point. Sorry, I'm Justin. I am our marketing manager here. I think more eyes on Paso is always the better, and I'm always going to be the devil's advocate with Aaron. Aaron can agree that we butt heads all the time, but in the best way possible. We're always going to get kind of pushback from locals sometimes, and we've seen that for the past 10 years. But within our county, we've invested so much in like hotel rooms, for example. We are going to have about 200% to 250% of hotel room increase within this next year, which is awesome for our economy. And at the end of the day, I believe it's about 40% of middle-class people in SLO County or Paso Robles are somehow integrated within the wine industry. So these kind of things that do bring people into our town are really important. So I do agree. I think this is all speculative at this point. This is, like you said, it's not a rocket ship launch site. It's really just really high altitude aircrafts that are happening. But I do think it would be a great thing for Paso Robles, and we are looking to bring people in, and we finally have developed infrastructure here in Paso, which we've been like 5 years behind on our growth for a long time. And I do think it's going to be really fun and interesting if that gets into place. But we do need to move forward, I think, with all of this.
They might start tearing out vineyards and building houses. I don't know.
I have two places that I love: Paso Robles. I mean, besides where I live, but I mean, two places I love. We have a cabin in southern Utah, and there's no airport, and it's a ski resort. And then Paso has no airport.
Yeah.
And
That's
I hear
not
all the
true.
time.
That's not true. There's
Not
I
domestic,
know.
not domestic airport.
Yeah, that's what I mean. No Southwest
that.
airline.
I like that airport.
So I don't know how many times I've heard it here in Orange County. I've had people go to Paso Robles. Where's the airport? I go, well, you can get into Cedar, and then nope, they want to land there and walk right out and maybe get shuttled to the hotel or whatever. And the same where we have a place in Bryan Head, Utah. There's no plane. Now, the upside to all of that is it keeps it semi-secluded. Is that great for business? But I can tell you from the group, everybody always says the same thing. I don't want the word to get out. I know this is bad from a business perspective. I want to keep it to my own private safe space. If all these people come in, I'm not going to like it anymore.
The USA Today poll, Mike, that comes out every year. The locals don't want to score well on that. No.
Right. They don't want to even answer the score well because of that, right? Am I
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mike, I'll challenge you a little bit. Not maybe not challenge you, but I'll give you some perspective on that, which is that
Challenge away.
I still love going to Sonoma. I
Right.
love going wine tasting up there. I love the wines up there. I go spend time up there, and I do think one of the great things about Sonoma County, this isn't all of Sonoma County, but certain aspects and certain wineries within Sonoma County, is it's a place it's grown. It's got a long history. It's in some ways like they're still bigger as a wine destination than Paso is. They're quite a bit bigger, but we're catching up with them. But it's still a place where, despite its growth, and obviously we all know as wine consumers that Sonoma has a much bigger name than Paso Robles does, for sure. I mean, it has for a long time. And you can still go to Sonoma County, you can still go in there and run into winemakers and see people, and there's a lot of wineries there where the vibe is still very homey and agricultural. And so I think that in your lifetime and my lifetime, I think there's still a lot of runway for Paso Robles to grow and not lose its charm. 50 years from now, I don't know. I'll be in the ground by then, so who knows? But
We were just up there in September last year. Friends of ours down here in South Orange County are invested in a winery there, Auteur. And we did go up there for a week, and we went all around. And I agree with you. Everybody was very accessible there, so very much.
and I've been to Auteur's new tasting room, and I would say it's kind of bougie and probably less accessible than the majority of Sonoma County. And I like Auteur wines, but I was like, this is not.
Well, they're all
like,
Pinot. They're Pinot driven, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different. But there's a lot of places that are very homey and very like got that vibe still.
There's a strategy to the whole thing. So you'd have to. But anyways, I like the place too. I saw it for the first time.
And I can't talk specifically about our winery, but if we do have a lot of increased traffic, there is going to be less of a ceiling of people trying to raise prices to make up for low visitation. So you might actually see a lower scale of increased pricing if we do have guaranteed traffic from
Right.
these people as well. So there could be a reverse effect with that.
Point.
We're getting a little long, but I'm okay. But if you're okay, but Patrick, do you have some?
I have 3 bottles of wine open, Mike. So.
Oh
Hey,
man,
Mike,
you're
hang out
in
with
for
us
the
all
long
night.
haul.
Mike, you have a fundamental problem in the fact this is the only problem I've actually seen with you, Mike, of all things. Believe it or not, yes, I'm on my second bottle of wine.
Okay.
Is you complain about not having an airport near. Get your pilot's license, buy an airplane. Don't buy that third house you have in Paso and fly yourself. Trust me, it works
Patrick,
a
can
hell of
we
a lot
just
better.
convince you to swing through
Hey, you know
Orange
what?
County and pick us up?
Yeah, and not a problem. I'll do it anytime. No problem.
You
Didn't you just
just have
listen?
to put them on salary. It'll be
Didn't you
fine.
listen? Didn't you just listen to our guests here about elitism?
Oh
Need
no,
a bigger plane because you're going to have us too.
that's
Yeah.
Now going out to St. Louis and picking these guys up. That's a whole other thing. We're not
Hey, Matt-
elitism.
Matt
This is a
Trevison came.
piece of-
Matt Trevison came to my house. Him and Maureen came to my house on 4th of July.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know Matt Trevison from Lena Coloto, he told me he sold all of his airplanes. So apparently
Oh, he did.
he told me. He said, I needed less hobbies. I sold all my airplanes. I said,
Oh.
you had multiple airplanes? Who has
Oh, that's
multiple
easy.
airplanes?
It's easy.
Okay, we don't have multiple airplanes.
We only have one, but that's okay. That's enough.
Well, he never mentioned that when we had him on earlier this year, but yeah, no, great guy, by the way.
Well,
What was I going to say? Go ahead, Laura.
No, I was just say, so Aaron, I just want to appreciate, we met you probably 2 years ago at Villa Montavo, up here in the Bay
Just
Area.
up there.
You were the only winery from Paso Robles at that event.
That was this year.
Oh
That
my
was this
God!
year.
Now I remember.
I looked.
We had the picture. We took a. Oh, that's
Yes, I
right, on the
took a
patio.
picture.
Okay, thank you. Sorry,
I
I'm
posted it
slow.
on the group. I was like,
I'm slow.
look. No, you were the only person from Paso at that entire event. And I was shocked when we got there and I was looking through who's here, because we strategized, like, who do we want to go taste from? Who can we skip? What do we want to do? And that was the first time I'd ever had any of your wines. And I was very impressed and
You're blown away. We bought a bunch.
We bought some
drank them all.
afterwards, and we've drank them, and we don't have any left. That's why I'm not drinking any tonight. I apologize. But yeah, I really appreciate.
I just did that event two
Oh.
2 weeks ago. I think it
okay.
was. This by the way, those people know it's in Saratoga in like the hills of Silicon Valley. You know what my favorite wine was? There was Nickel and Nickel.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nickel, yeah.
Yeah.
Or wait, is that the name of the
Yeah.
Yes.
The Variante Nickel.
Yeah,
Nickel,
Nickel and
Right,
Nickel.
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
No,
was my favorite wine I tried. And
Okay,
you know
so-
what's funny about that? We talk about price. I
Yeah.
said this wine was 100. There was four Cabernets that were $145, and I said, "Wow, these are really good." And what a deal! That's what I said in my mind, in the context of Napa, right? And I said,
Yeah.
when did I convince myself that $145 was a deal? Because it's not a deal. That's a stupid amount of money to pay for a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
But we've all agree here on this Zoom that Napa prices are so distorted that somehow or another we say, "Wow, what a great Cabernet for only $145."
Well, and the issue is that so 2 weeks ago we were at a fundraiser in Livermore, and we were at a table with people who own a really popular beer ale house in downtown Livermore, and they're wine people. And we were talking to them, and when we talked to them about Paso, they said, "Oh, we go to Paso." I said, "Oh, where do you go?"
Yeah.
And they said, "Dow and Justin." Did they name a third? Did they say Eberly? Maybe.
Yeah.
And we looked at them, and it was really hard. I mean, I don't have a good poker face, but I'm like, yeah, if you want to talk about places, we go to small places, and we have a lot of really great smaller wineries for you to try out instead. You know?
Well, Justin, who's my marketing manager, who you met, worked at both Eberly and Dow, so I don't think he's taking offense to that. But we pulled him over to the dark side. We pulled him over to the small winery side.
But it is that thing where most random people we talk to in the Bay Area who have gone to Paso, right? That's their experience, and it's like, how do I get you to go the next time you go back to dig deeper, right?
And that's one thing that we do as passionate Paso people is we always talk about, no, let's talk about the small guys. Let's talk about the
that's what
people
we
where you
do.
can go in and meet and enjoy it and get a true experience, not
Those people are going there because of the name, the cachet, the name brand.
yeah. but they
They're
haven't
going
tasted
there
good wine.
to have fun, and these are bigger places. They're well known. So when they invite their friends, they go, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that place," and they go. But the smaller Tin City place, they don't really know those names, or in some Willow Creek, they don't know those names. We're big advocates here in this group and in this particular forum of the small producers.
I think that's where my job comes in, which is great because I think these big companies do a lot of work for Paso in general, and then we get to ride their horsetails on
Agree
that.
with that. He's absolutely right. Rising
and
tide
I
lifts all
think-
boats.
Like, it would cost us so many more dollars to get these people here that we don't have to do. And, people aren't going to Dow 3 times a weekend for the whole weekend. So they get to find these new places.
Where else you go? That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. So I am not on this anti-Dow or Eberly or
I'm not
Justin
either.
train. I think their marketing dollars are really just helping Paso in general.
Mhm.
And I think it's really helpful for us to do that, especially market wide throughout the whole country in a store to promote Paso.
But it's to get them to do more than that, right?
Yeah.
And to realize that there are more than just the ones that they.
Yeah, but they get to visit Paso, right? So once they visit Paso,
If they get someone from Kansas to come out here on their very first wine trip, and they come to Paso Robles as their very first wine trip, that's not because of me. That's because of Dow. That's because of Justin. I would, if you guys don't mind, I would love to ask a question to the remaining group members that are here, and I would love it if you would actually just put it in the comments because I'm kind of curious, and it might be easier to do this.
Can I?
Yeah.
Should we do this offline?
No. It could be online.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
I'm just curious, like,
No, I mean,
I would be curious if people in the comments here would tell me, maybe before they log off. I'm curious to hear from people that are the Paso Robles wine fanatics. I would actually like to know candidly, like, why you guys all love Paso Robles. Like, what is it about us here in Paso Robles, other than the wine? I mean, the wine is obviously part of it, but it's more. There's so much good wine in the world. I would love to hear from you guys in the comments for us to learn. Like, I want to know, like, why are you a Paso Robles fanatic? Like, why do you love Paso wine? Like, give me the nitty gritty, like gloves off. Like, tell me why it is. And maybe it could be, and sometimes it's, I like Napa wine and your wine's good and cheaper. Hey, whatever, that's fine. Or it's, I just
that's not a
like,
good answer, but I get
well,
it.
it's
Okay.
it's sometimes that's an honest answer for people though,
I
Lee.
know.
Like
I
that's the
get it.
truth.
So
Sometimes it's I like that I get to meet the winemaker when I go in. Sometimes it's like they don't treat me like I need to be, that I need to have a net worth of X amount to come and enjoy their wine. Whatever it might be, I just would love to hear that from people because that helps me just understand what we're doing, if we're, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong.
Jason has a comment. Jason, answer is what you believe you see in the group that is, give him an answer that you feel is.
I typed in already because I mean we talk about this a lot. Um, it's and I'll just add some context to what I typed in there. So and I know I was typing it as you said, don't put good wine,
I know.
but
That's okay.
the fact is,
I hope that first and foremost, but
right?
No, at the end of the day, when this goes in the recording and goes on the Meet Your Makers channel, people
Yeah,
will see it and they're gonna make comments. And there's no reason. Well, there's no boundaries. We
right. So
go ahead. Go ahead.
so first of all, there is truly world class wine here, but it's also not just a couple of grapes. There's not many places, and my wife and I love traveling the world and going to wine regions. Um, it is uniquely diverse in Paso. I mean, the amount of good grapes, to your point about Petite Sirah earlier and how unique that is, but also, eh, they're making great Italian varietals in Paso now and Spanish varietals, and obviously Bordeaux and Rhone, but there's not many places. There probably isn't another place I can think of where you can get that many high quality produced wines that are that diverse. The access to the winemakers, like to have such a quality wine region where you can still have that kind of small town feel, still some accessibility. But the other thing that comes up a lot on our calls, almost every winemaker has told a story, including you early on here, Aaron, about how other winemakers have helped them one way or another. Um, and the lack of kind of competitiveness in Paso compared to, first of all, most industries, but even within the wine industry, most other regions don't have the kind of camaraderie and support that Paso does. That's a unique differentiator from, frankly, from any wine region that we've visited anywhere in the world. Um, so it's just, I think, three of the common things that come up a lot, and three things Mike and I talk a lot about that make Paso special to us.
okay, I can't keep quiet because Laura's telling me type it in. It's like, no, it's too verbose.
I haven't seen
The
Mike's response yet, by the way. I haven't seen it typed in yet, Mike.
I
so
don't. I don't type responses, but anyways,
no. But what Jason said though is the reason we love the Paso is my philosophy on life and our philosophy on life is all about the story. No matter how much you come in with the world, leave with the world. It's the stories that you leave with. That when you leave this world, it's to leave behind. My late wife, my dad, everybody. We talk about the stories of them. Paso brings that along. There are the stories. We meet the winemakers. We have incredible wines. We have stories. Wine, when you have the palate that I have, it's not an exceptional palate, but I know what I like. But when I can talk passionately about the winemaker, the experience, and everything else, it elevates it up and it brings it to this next level. And honestly, when you bring in a bunch of wine geeks and you talk about the experience and the stories behind it, all of a sudden it gets us going, and that's what it is. So that's what Paso brings. They bring a story that no one else has. And that's for me personally what it is. And it's just the quality is there, the story is there, the people are there. And we generally like 85% of the people. I mean, that's really high. I'm in Silicon Valley. I like 30% of the people up here. But 85% is like really, it's like, no. And everybody's cool. So that's just, it makes a difference. You don't get that in Napa. You don't get that in Europe. I mean, I've been all through Europe and everything else like this. I mean, like Jason, and you don't get that. Only here, only in Paso. So anyway,
Great. That's awesome to hear. I like to think that the spirit of Paso Robles is, despite the 250 more hotel rooms, as Jason mentioned, in a future spaceport, I like to think that the spirit of Paso is still alive. And honestly, you guys are a big part of that. I mean, having that, basically a fan group that keeps this culture thriving and going is something that's really I mean, clearly the winemakers here in Paso see value in it because they're coming on your show on a regular basis. You're getting Justin Smith of all people. I mean, you can hit up just someone like Justin Smith, who when I worked for Justin in 2012 was already a superstar, and his reputation has only grown. And he's going to come on here and chat with you. And that's the accessibility that I think is something that we're all proud of in Paso. And
I didn't have to do a lot of arm twisting. It was, I mean, if Don and Bill came on, he'd go, hey, Justin, you have to come on now.
yeah, I mean, I think at the end, what you see is, like, just as you guys mentioned, accessibility. It's like they're not, yeah, maybe their prices are high, but that doesn't mean that they're an inaccessible person. Like, trust me, I spend a lot of time with Justin. He's not like this Andy Erickson untouchable person. He's just a guy that, you know, that
But
likes.
I will share a comment. He told me in Wine Fest, he goes, there's a lot of people that reach out to us that mention the group because they read about, and really from a marketing standpoint, Justin, I mean, this is really, you have to participate in the group. That's how you get that mention. And when you get mentioned a lot, it starts to snowball. Saxum has a little bit of an edge because they
A
have
little bit,
become
little bit. It's like small, just a little bit.
they got
Hey,
a bit of a cult thing around it. But he did mention he knows the group he knows from his clientele that the group is a big part of that. The Paso Robles Wine Fanatics is a big part of what he sees as his membership. And so that's important. And he was so gracious, and I'm so, I mean, Jason and I are happy that he's going to join us. I know he doesn't do these things very often. So
hey,
we're
Aaron, one more thing to
honored.
add to your question. I don't know what to deduce from this, but and transparently, Mike, I'm going to share some stuff. Years ago, when this group started to grow, Mike and I went and created similar groups for every region in the U.S.
Hmm.
Um, None of them materialized into anything. Um, and the only point there is that the passion for Paso is measurably unique, driven by the love and the passion of the fans, the consumers for Paso, because every other region had the same opportunity. Um, None of them do anything. Santa Barbara, a tiny, tiny bit, but Napa, nothing. Sonoma, nothing. Finger Lakes, nothing. Walla Walla, et cetera, nothing. Paso's 25K and climbing by the day. It's just the passion for the region is so unique. And I don't know what to deduce from that exactly, other than everybody feels the same kind of passion that we do as we talk about this kind of stuff and the same kind of love for the region.
I hope that that's true, and I hope it's genuine. At first, I thought we're like you asked 50 girls on a date on Tinder, and only one of them replied, and we were the one. It's a
No,
desperation, but no, I think that if it's 25,000 people strong, I think you're right. I think that, and that credit is it's partly the region. There's credit to be given to so many different things. It's not one thing. It's the wines, it's the people. It's hey, it's our marketing organization. You know, PRWCA has done a great job. It is as Justin brought up. It's the Dows and the Justins and the Everlys and the J Lores of the world. I mean, it's it's a collective effort that at the end of the day has to be supported by good wine because obviously like there's lots of wineries and lots of effort put out to promote Temecula, but at the end of the day, like it's only going to get you so far. And so
We live near there. It's not even close.
yeah, and so I'm
I
really
mean,
grateful.
it's a great place to party.
Yeah.
Okay. But the wine doesn't
Yeah.
come close to what you're doing there.
And the 25,000 people strong that you talk about, you know, you could sit here and have plenty of these Zoom winemaker things and have it be Mike, you and I and Jason sitting here talking to each other with no one on it. So the 25,000 people does help. Not that there's 1,000 people on this, but even at the end of the day, like the people that are here are so passionate about what we do. And so you guys have built a community, you guys have built a tribe of people, and that's really grateful. And I'm really grateful for that.
We did. It's really organic. The membership, we get 30 posts a day, and then hundreds of comments. It's not Jason, myself, the rest of the team. All we do is police to make sure there's no forest fires, either political or otherwise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I will
Justin, tell
say
me.
too, like I
Huh?
do a lot of kind of reporting on how we get people in our tasting room. And of course, the number one visitors are going to be our wine club members, but the second one is just people that are like friends that are referring friends. And a lot of those I'm seeing an increase just from forums, Wine Fanatics being one of them, Reddit being another one too.
Cool.
So you guys are, of course, helping, I think, just the communities in general. We're seeing a big uptick in just not lack of trust in like non-known reviews, but just really leaning into like friendships and leaning into people that they know or forums that they're familiar with. So this has been really helpful, and we've been measuring traffic with that. So it's been a really cool thing to see.
I can't
You know
even,
what?
I mean, you are one of the, you are articulate and passionate, Aaron, and that comes across in how you present yourself. That's impressive. And I know that makes a big difference to the fan group. And I think Jason will agree. That's why one of the reasons why we wanted to have you on. And you know what? Your marketing guy here, he's really smart. He reached out to me. He needs a raise now.
Yeah. Well,
Smart.
I appreciate all you guys so much. This is actually one of the greatest joys I get in what I do after 25 years is getting to meet people that are passionate about wine. I love wine. It's not just my job, it's what I do. I'm probably going to open another bottle of wine here as soon as I get off this as I make dinner.
On
Well,
that
we'll let
note,
you get
before
there.
people leave, though, I do want either in the chat comment what you guys drank tonight with us. I want to know what you guys are drinking right now.
Ooh, good one.
Well, I'll tell you, I had the
I'll show you.
23 Petite Syrah, Justin.
Justin made me bring these home, so I'm drinking these.
Oh, that's the trio. I get
Drinking
it.
my own juice. But yeah, I would love to hear what people are drinking. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Even if it's not ours, I would love to hear what. Yeah, I want to know what people are drinking, even if it's not our wine. I just want to hear because that's great.
yeah. I mean, we try to help with getting some pre-sales so into the group, and I appreciate so much that you gave me an opportunity to have this Petite Syrah. It's beautiful,
Thank you.
and you know, and I remember the incident where Jason opened the bottle up, and I went, "Wow, this is really good." I don't even know if he blinded it to me. I mean, it was. What do you think of this? And that's what we were kind of doing that at a time. But I really appreciate the time you've taken to do this. You're very impressive, and
Thank you.
I'll tell you what. I'm coming up there at the end of July. I'm going to go to an elitist couple events. So, but I'm going to be in Tin City, and I'm going to come by. And
I hope to see
work
every
with
single person
Justin.
on this
I'll work
call
with
at some point.
Justin. So I'll work with Jess, or I'll go through Jess and tell him when I can get there and see if we can hook up. That's all.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well,
I'd be love to meet you.
well, thank you guys all for coming, and thanks for being so passionate about Paso and making me a part of your guys' conversations. This is something I really believe in, and I've been doing this for 25 years here in Paso, and I'm flying the flag for Petite Sirah. So I want to see more Petite Sirah in everyone's cellar.
Hey,
Good reason.
if people don't
Thank
walk
you,
away
Aaron.
from watching this, they're fools. You have
Yeah.
you are very passionate about what you're doing, and that comes across very much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mike. Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm doing my other job too, is they did do a post. There is a special code on their site if you guys do want to buy any of our wines. It's good for the end of the month. So if you want to get $15 shipping,
I'll put it up again. I'll put it
yeah.
up again. Okay.
Yeah, you can do
I'll
one
put it
bottle
up
of wine,
again
you can do
till the end of the
30 bottles of wine, do whatever you want, but it's all up to you guys. But
I'm
it's
sorry, I was on vacation and I forgot to ask you how long you want it to go.
yeah, to
But
the end of the month. Yeah, end of
okay.
July.
I'll take care of it and put a multiple
Cool.
posts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for
Aaron,
coming
thank
again.
you.
Aaron, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My
Justin,
pleasure.
thank you too. Thank you very much.
Justin,
God.
thank you for reaching out.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.